Dudley,
Yeah, good to see you.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, good to meet you too.
How is the governor's race going for you so far?
It's going great, thank you. No, it's a lot of energy out there, a lot of enthusiasm. We've literally driven, I think we're up to about 9,500 miles that we've done. Been across the state, all 36 counties, and there's an energy. There's a belief, love of state, but our state's got to do better. And Salem is failing us right now.
Yeah, no, I do feel like I do feel like a lot of Oregonians kind of feel like left or right. I think there's a sense of, there's a lot of problems right now, and we have some things to work on. Yeah, like we have a beautiful state, great people.
Yep.
But it's just like with your own personal growth, you're like, yeah, but there's some things I could work on. You know what I mean? What would be the top things that you think that as a state we really got to make sure that we work on?
Well, the core issues that I'm focused on are the core issues that impact everybody's lives. Education, economy, livability, which includes affordability and safety. It's where do you live, where do you work, where do you play, and how do we improve those places? And by the way, we're at a place where we're 50th in education for fourth grade testing. We're 47th for job creation, 46th as a place to do business. We're number one in mental illness and drug addiction. So we're failing. Salem has failed us. And I come in strongly with the attitude that the status quo, that what we have in Salem, frankly, on both sides of the aisle at times, has to be changed. Yeah, we have serious issues, and we can't keep playing a partisan food fight and not getting anything done. We have to focus on, we're failing the next generation right now. And that bothers me and should bother everybody.
Yeah. Well, speaking of like the next generation, so I served on the school board for Salem County for a number of years, and so education's kind of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest reasons I did that was because I care about kids and I wanted to make sure the kids have a future, And what I realized going in was a lot of the issues with education are dictated by the state, and a lot of the problems are a statewide problem, can't be solved as a school district problem.
Right.
So what would be like, if you're just to be specific on what specific things do you plan to do with education to help improve results?
Well, for one thing, an area I've focused on, because I think it's important, is where we're literally ranked 50th, is literacy in fourth grade reading and math. And it's getting back to the fundamentals. And the good news is other states have dealt with this. Mississippi, for example, went from 47th to 1st in reading. And they focused on the science of reading. They added accountability. Not just promote by age, but by merit. You have to be at that grade level to go forward. And fourth grade is a huge deal in that if you're not literate by fourth grade, you're 4 times as likely not to graduate from high school. You're up to 70% chance of getting incarcerated in your lifetime. That's a big deal. We're failing our kids in that regard. And we need more accountability in our schools. And I believe that tone is set by the governor and comes down. And I'm hearing that from teachers. I'm hearing it from parents, where they want more accountability in the school system and focusing back on the fundamentals, getting our kids where they need to be, holding our kids accountable, parents accountable, teachers accountable, administration accountable, and really work on how do we fix this.
So what does that accountability look like?
To me, it's a couple things. One, to make sure we're teaching the core fundamental, make sure all our teachers are trained in teaching the fundamentals, the science of reading, for example. We need to make sure our universities that are accrediting, certifying our teachers, are teaching in that as well, that we're using the best, we're teaching the right things. So accountability there. Accountability that if you're not at the grade level, you don't automatically get promoted. And that sounds tough, but it's kind of tough. I believe right now we're in a place where where it's the cruelty of low expectations, where we're just passing. Basically, to graduate now, you have to be able to fog a mirror, so to speak. And that doesn't help anybody. 40% of our kids, when they graduate from high school, need remedial classes upon graduation when they go to community college. That's not right. We shouldn't be there. And so I think we need stronger accountability. I also believe we need more time in the classrooms. I've talked about this where we have the lowest amount of classroom. We have the highest absentee rate in the country. Now, part of that is going to be up to the school. There's a lot of things that go into that where we have to have the kids in school. We have to be teaching properly so they want to be in school. But right now, the kid from Washington, kid from Oregon meet up. If they both graduated high school, the kid from Washington's gone to school the equivalent of one full school year more than the kid from Oregon. Right. It's huge. And I use the sports analogy that if your team is in last place and when you're 50th, you're in last place, should you have the least amount of practice time of any other team? Most people who understand sport would say no. And so we have to get better at that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate your answer. Yeah. Now, let's talk about the economy for a second. Because I own the Salem Business Journal. And so that's something that's, I'm very passionate about because I believe that small business is the backbone of our country, backbone of our economy. And Oregon is notorious, just like with education. It's ranked in between 47 to 50 on almost every stat when it comes to being pro-business, right?
Yeah.
So what would be your plans to turn around our economy?
And to start with, you're absolutely right. And traveling the state and doing roundtables across the state, it's the theme has been Oregon's gone from business unfriendly to business adversarial. So I think the first thing is to really advocate for business and say, as governor, I'm the salesman for the state. I want to keep businesses here, open door of communication. I want to recruit businesses here. I want to be an advocate for business. Small business, as you said, is the backbone of our state and so important. We have the highest tax rate in the nation for working class Oregonians, which also impacts small business owners. I've said I want to reduce the personal income tax on the first $100,000 of earned income, because as you know, with a small business, that will impact business owners as well. Sure. That we need to do that, especially when half our state is living month to month. For example, roll back things that don't make sense. The CPP is something that's climate protection program, something that's going to be a $5 billion tax that's coming down the line. That's something I will push back on immediately as governor on day one, push back on that. I would say the cat tax is something we have to look at and maybe in raising the exemption or redoing. There's a lot of number of areas where I think you have to do an audit for all taxes. What makes sense, what doesn't make sense. But maybe even more importantly, it's just that attitude that we're open for business. And as a governor, I will be able to look small business in the eye and say, as governor, I will veto any bill that comes through that doesn't make sense from a business perspective, and embrace that and encourage it.
And how are you going to determine what makes sense from a business perspective?
Well, it's talking to me.
Voices from.
Yes, I think that's so. As one of the things that, as governor, you have the powers of the pulpit, power of the pen, to veto bills, pulpit to talk about issues. One of the things that's often overlooked is the power of appointment. There's close to 300 boards and commissions across our state, and agency heads, judges, and not one of those has been appointed by a Republican governor. Well, somewhere there's somebody who's appointed in 86, which I don't think is happening. But the idea that from a business perspective, you want people at the table who are putting forth these rules and regulations, who are actually impacted by those rules and regulations. For sure. And there's been a disconnect, and we need to restore that balance. And that's going to be crucial. And understanding you're not getting rid of all rules and regulations, but you can streamline them. You can we all want rules. We need those.
Yeah, to a degree.
To a degree.
Yeah, like we got to be able to save, species from going extinct. Yeah, we got to preserve the beautiful state that we have. But at the same time, it feels like there's so much restriction. It's compounding to where this goes into the next thing I wanted to ask you about is it kind of ties into housing affordability, right? So what would be your plan or your thought about housing affordability and the regulations around new construction and in that area?
Well, there's a couple of components. As governor, one of the first things I would do is put a time limit on permitting and getting approval processes that we have to be able to speed that up. When it comes to housing, there's 4 components to building a house, and 2 of which the state has impact on. couple, they have impact on different areas, but the two in particular are the land and the permitting. And the availability of land is something we have to look at. We have. I think Oregon was at the forefront, was a leader in its land use planning, but that was, and I applaud the mission behind that. But it was done over 50 years ago, and we have to revisit that. We need more land in certain areas for housing.
Yeah.
Then the other component is permitting. And that's something where we have to speed up the process. And I said, as governor, I will make sure I'll put limits on how long those delays can be, putting appointments in boards, commissions to make sure that we have people who understand those industries in those positions of power. And then it's really focusing on, and this is where I think it's so important to have an outsider, somebody who can bring people together, but also we need somebody who has a business background. We haven't had a governor with a business background in the state of Oregon for over 40 years, and it shows. And just a simple one is understanding the time value of money. Instead of a permitting process that used to take 30 days now takes a year and a half or 2 years, no wonder the project costs more. Not to the capital that's sitting there, the labor that's sitting, different pieces, as you know. For anybody who runs a business, you understand it. And we haven't had, in the governor's office, and frankly, a lot of the legislature, we haven't had an understanding of business and economics, and we need that.
A bunch of the candidates who are running currently, right, we've been seeing on the daily for the last couple of years. But you kind of you ran in 2010. And in fact, I remember that because one of my really good friends, his mom, you were
executive director.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, we have a foundation for kids with diabetes that we've had our foundation do a basketball camp for kids with diabetes, advocate for kids with diabetes, and we've had that foundation for over 30 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So I was in middle school, and that's why I remembered you running. But then you kind of I haven't seen much about you since, besides, of course, I had personal ties with the Wacom. But, a lot of these other candidates have been around. We've seen them around a lot. So, what have you been doing?
So after I ran in 2010, my wife and I made the decision that I would not run it because I wanted to go again.
Yeah.
I'm a competitor, and you have that drive. But we made the decision that I would not run again until the kids at least got out of high school, because it can be tough on the family. And now they're 27, 26, 24. But then they were smaller, and just didn't want to have to run while they were going through that age, and really focus on our family. And my wife got a job opportunity. I thought it was my turn. She had followed me throughout my MBA career, business career, running for governor. It was my turn to follow her lead. And so been involved with my background is economics, was Yale economics, you got a degree? I got a degree in economics, econ poli-sci. And I was, then in the MBA, I was a negotiator for the union, treasurer of the union, working on $1 billion collective bargaining agreements, healthcare, pension benefits. Afterwards, I got my CFP, Certified Financial Planner. I started an investment firm. And then I was CEO and chairman of the board for a medical device company in Beaverton, as well as running our foundation for 30 years.
Wait, didn't you played in the NBA? When was that?
Yeah. So the NBA was first.
Just so you know, I knew about the NBA back.
Yeah.
I didn't know about all.
Yes. Yeah. Well, not everybody does. And then I should do a better job of, I did more than just playing the NBA. Yeah. So but yes, I've been in the business world. So I was focused on my family. I was focused on business. And then I got involved with a project, keeping the Blazers in Oregon. And that started shortly after Paul Allen passed. We were trying to identify an owner with Northwest roots or ties to be an owner. And then it became apparent that wasn't going to happen, especially after Phil wasn't going to do it. Then we started Rip City Forever with the idea of ringing the bell, so to speak, for the city and the state to realize, here's what's happening. You're going to get an out-of-town owner coming in. There's going to be needs for a major renovation. Be prepared, be ready to negotiate, look at and we can go more in depth on this another time, but it shows the lack of economic and business sense and negotiating sense in Salem, in the governor's office, and frankly, the legislature. They got played. They don't understand it. They don't know how to, we'll talk about that another time. But So I've been involved with a number of things. We've had a house here. We've been focusing on my family. I'm not a politician. I'm not a career politician. And you point out the others that have been doing, and I would say, yes, and they're not succeeding. That here we are, 50th, 47th, 46th. We're in this, and as a party, we're in the super minority, and we've stayed in the super minority. I took a lot of pride that in 2010, when I ran, we started that race. We were in the super minority in both houses, and by running on a message that resonated across party lines, by the time we were done working with those legislators, campaigning with those legislators, by the time we were done, we were 30, 14, 16, and it was a good place for the state. Our state needs balance, and it needs to have a message at the top of the ticket that can resonate with people, and we've got to get that balance restored.
Do you feel like you bring that balance?
I do. I think I have the ability to bring people, and I think that's the advantage of why we need somebody from the outside. I don't come in with all the partisan baggage. I have the ability to talk to people on both sides of the aisle. My background is working with people, building consensus. Actually, I think sports is great in that regard, where you're on a team and everybody's got a completely different background, and you're playing towards a common goal. And so I think that's something where I will be able to come in and say, hey, we as a state, we have serious issues that we have to face, and we've got to cut the partisan nonsense, cut all that, and let's sit down table, figure out things, because we got to address this. The next generation is dependent on us.
Yeah, sure. Well, one more question for you.
Yeah.
Where's
Yeah.
And you kind of answered this kind of throughout the whole thing. But if you were to really drill down to when someone asks, why should I vote for you over anybody else? Why should I vote for you over Tina? Why should I vote for you over anyone else in the primary? What would be your response?
Well, to me, that's easy. It's coming in from outside perspective. I think I am uniquely qualified out of anybody on either side to actually bring people together away from the partisanship that we've had on both sides, bring people together. I think having a business background, as I said, we haven't had that in the governor's office for 40 years is an imperative. And I think the ability to be able, be able to connect with people across party lines is important. And I'm running on issues that are to everyone. And when I'm talking about education, economy, livability, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican or independent. You want good schools. You want jobs available. You want your kids to be able to afford to live where they grew up. You want safe streets, and be able to run on those messages and say, this isn't about partisan. This is about getting stuff done. I'm a results person. I'm not running to be someone. I've been successful in America. I've been someone. I am someone. I'm running to do something. And that's the biggest difference here. And that I'm the one who's not a career politician, not looking to do it for other reasons, doing it because our next generation is depending on it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.